Hello, and today we are going to try and make a hat. I've never made a hat before. This isn't really a tutorial how to make a hat because I don't know what I'm doing. Should be fun. Come along. Okay, to start off with, because I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to use this hat as a base. I'm aiming to make a hat that's similar to like a witch hunter hat off Warhammer. If you're similar to that, you might have played the Total War Warhammer games. If you don't have a hat, I suppose you could use really any hat really that fits you well, just to make sure you get this brim in properly here. We're gonna make some traces, some templates, and then go forward from there. So I traced that out onto a piece of paper. I also wanted a bit more just because I'm looking for a wider brimmed hat. And then I put that onto the leather and then I cut that out of the leather. That left me with the hat base. Now I'm a bit confused if this is a bit soft to use as a brim, but I'm wondering if it will thicken up. Then of course I've got to work out the top of the hat area, so what's going up here. So what I went up, I measured my head, I measured the hat, and the hat informed me that I had a head of 58 centimeters, which the measurements did as well. So then I went and cut out a strip. This is longer than 58 centimeters just because I'm wanting a bit more playroom because I don't really know what I'm doing. And then I went with the height that I wanted. So it's going to be quite tall when it is completed. As you can see, it's kind of looking like a hat. So what I did, I wrapped this around my head and I marked off the point where it touches, which is here. Now I've used pen on the inside here. Then I'm going to give myself a bit of overlay here. So I'm probably going to pick a point that sticks out the most, and let's say 2 centimeters. To be cutting this leather, I've been using this knife that I've gotten in a kit. Now this is a very sharp knife. I think this is how you're meant to do it from the videos that I've seen on YouTube, and it does the job. It's one scary knife. It's that easy. And this is thick veg tan leather too. I'm going to measure this up again against my head, make sure it all works, and then I'm going to put some stitch marks across and hopefully match it all up. Alright, so I've got my marks for the stitch line, pushing out some holes. I'm all done on this side now. I've damaged my board a little bit, but onto the others. With both sides now punctured, so I've done this side and this side. I'm going to line them up and I'm going to stitch them all together. Hopefully that works. And then I'm going to trim off and make it all nice and seamless. As you can see, I've got a bit of overlap. I just got my first injury getting the needles, if you can see them, out of the packet. But that's sewing for you. I'm going to go get a Band-Aid. All right, I'm back. My hand's got a Band-Aid on it. I've got my needles here. I've got my leather. Time to get my waxed thread. Now that I'm got a wrapped thumb, this is gonna be, give me a wax thread. Now I've got my wax thread, it's time to measure out. Now, with sewing, I normally go, like when I sew lamellar together, I normally just go double. But because we're stitching, I don't really know. I might go quadruple. Seems like a bit much, but it's always better to have more than less in this situation. All right, I don't know what I'm doing here, so I'm gonna go look up a YouTube video. So, we're told to put a little bit of thread through our needle. You can see that. Boom. All right, got my 2 needles. 2 needles attached with thread. Okay, so I've got this block of wood because I don't have a stitching pony. I've got the leather over like this. I'm gonna overlap it like that. So first off, I need to make sure my hole is there. Yep. I'm gonna do a couple of these. So we're gonna take 1 thread. Okay, so we're back. I've done the holes on this side. I've learnt how to thread the thread onto the needles, which is a neat little trick where you lock them on. So that's going to work better. Let's try attempt 2. Anyway, I'll see you when I've got this done. Okay, so I've pressed all the holes through, which hopefully is going to make this a lot more easier to sew. As you can see, if you can see, I've done that there, and I've done it on the other side as well. Alrighty, let's get this show on the road. Much time has passed, but I have finally finished the stitching on my hat base. Stitching is really quite difficult. To stitch this whole thing will take quite some time. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to use some glue instead. This is the super strength epoxy adhesive. I use this stuff all the time. I find it really handy. It's got the 2 streams. So the plain reason why I'm going to use this glue instead is I think it's going to look a lot better than if I was to stitch it. You should probably wear gloves, but I'm used to scraping this stuff off my hands. Should probably stitch the back or something just to ensure that it wouldn't come out, but all right. Now, I'm going to let that set for 24 hours. So what I've done, I've just weighed it around the hat, pushing it up against, because this is wider than the hole itself. So it's just pushing it all together, and that way it should set nicely overnight. Fingers crossed. Okay, so it's the next day. I've let the hat dry overnight. I'm hoping it works. I have a feeling it won't. But let's give it a go. So I weighed it down, as I showed last night, just with these clamps. I originally tried to clamp it, but it kept moving, so it wasn't so good. All right. Oh, damn. That has worked surprisingly well. That's not bad for a first attempt, and it fits all right. Because I'm going to put a strip of leather around the top there, so all the mess that I've made here won't exactly see. Yeah, happy with that. It's pretty good. Also got to work out what kind of top I want to do to make the shape. So I probably want it to come in a bit at the top here. So I'll probably do like an oval shape, and then I will stitch that. Probably should have put the holes and the stitching in the top before I glued it all together. So what I've got here is the offcut of the actual brim I did. If you remember, I went a bit longer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to square this up, and then I'm going to place it inside the hat here, and then hopefully bend that all in and then sew it up, then trim off around the stitching. First off, we're going to trim up this bit. So it's not super square, but I am trying to get that halfway between that rustic look and of course a detailed look. So what I want to do is kind of have it in the hat there and then stitch it around. So I'm going to have to do like an oval type shape So I've got the hat sitting, I've got a bit off the top and a bit on the bottom. Just turn that around the other way. Because then I want to pinch in the bottom and front. I'm going to take my Sharpie. Oh no, I knocked my hat off. And I'm going to go from the inside so I don't get Sharpie on the outside of the hat. And there's our rough outline. So once again, I'm just going to cut this out with that sharp tool. So there we have the top of the hat. All right, so I'm going to puncture the holes in the top. Look at that, perfect spacing, and that was unlined. That's sick. Alright, so I've got my top, I've got that done. Now I've gone the whole way around because I wanted to see the length and get the spacing right. This isn't the right size, so it's not going to line up properly, but I thought it might help me out a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sew the two sides on to the side, get the shape I think I want, and then go from there. So I've been sewing for about an hour and a half, and I've done a lot of the stitching here. You can see how the hat's coming up, and I've decided to actually go all the way. I know I said I was going to make it cut in, but I really kind of like the look of how it's coming along. It's looking exactly how I want. But it's coming to a little bit of a difficult area here because I'm having to sew inside the hat. So what I've done, I've got a torch that I'm actually shining inside the hat, and that's allowing me to see the holes that I'm making and that I'm stretching out with my little tool here, and I'm able to get it done. It's looking a lot better than I thought it would. So give it another hour and I should have it all done. After much difficulty, I've got the hat to this point. I'm just finishing up on the final few stitches. What I'm doing, I've got my flashlight and the hat laying down, and I'm just peering down the hat and trying to line up the stitching. Considering I don't really know what I'm doing, I think I did an alright job. It's not bad at all. I'm just going to back stitch. Now I've already got the stitch holes here, so it's a lot easier to find. And it's all done. After piercing my hands about 1 billion times, I have finally stitched this top bit. Now this took me about 2 hours to do. So we've got the hat. I put a little bit of a crease in it at the top because I like the look of it. But at the moment, I'm looking more like someone, like it's getting there, but I kind of look like someone that hangs out at a billabong. So we need to add the classic witch hunter belt. So now we've got our hat, we've got our belt. Look at that. That definitely looks the part. So it's the next day and I've glued up the hat once again and I've let it set overnight. What I did, I let it sit like this, but I actually put these bulldog clips on the sides here to taper it in because that's where I lost a lot of the tension before. But because I've done that, it's actually stuck up a bit closer to the brim. Not the brim, the hat itself, and that's causing it to actually have this taper effect. So when I put it on, it actually wants to stay. So now I've got the, well, not the thickness right, but the actual way how it should work right. So now what I'm going to do is just trim it up a bit, make it a bit more neater, and then I'm more or less done. With the gluing, I was a little bit rough and a bit too quick, so I've accidentally gotten glue all over the leather. Now, if I take the belt off, you can see that I've gotten glue, quite thick amounts of glue on the side there and on the side. That's not too bad because it's being covered by the belt, but bits like this are just a bit too prominent. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sand them back a bit, and you can see I've already started on some of them, just to take that shine out and hopefully then polish them out. So I'm just going to go along. So now I'm going to apply some oil to the hat. Now it's actually a Kiwi brand. This is for waterproofing and nourishing footwear leather, but it's for real leather. Now what it's going to do is actually change the color of the leather. It's going to make it a lot darker, but it's also going to make sure it wears better. And I will be wearing this most likely in wet weather, so a little bit of waterproofing would be nice, considering the issue I made in the back here, where I feel like it's just going to catch water and it's just going to go into my head. Now the best way I like to do it when I do my shoes is I actually like to use a sock that for some reason I'm always losing one sock. So I've always got one sock spare. I grab the bit there, grab a bit, and then I just massage that in. And remember, you're massaging it in. You can see there the color change. It's quite drastic, but it's going to look really nice when it's done, and hopefully it really brings out some of the grain that's in this leather, because it is really quite nice. This is the final result after adding that oil/wax. I'm really impressed with how it came out. It feels really nice and it really made that grain pop. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I also hope that it inspires you to do something that you don't really know what to do, but to give it a go. Thank you for watching.